Yo, what's up? How old are you?
I'm 23, man.
For sure. Do you think that being gay is wrong or immoral?
Yeah.
Why so?
Same argument that we just had. It's because of the evolutionary issues, man. That,
Such as?
like, I just don't understand how you cannot agree to saying that, like, a penis is supposed to be in the vagina and not be taken up anally or whatever. Just
How do you know that to be the case?
because like, almost all mammals just instinctively go into, like, are heterosexual and just don't
That's
really
not
need
true.
anything. Huh?
That's not
That
true.
is
We
true.
observe homosexuality in over 3,000 animal species. If you're saying that being gay is wrong because under your
I said
worldview,
mammals though, I know animals.
yeah, mammals, right? So
You said
yeah,
animals though.
yeah, so we observe mammals are animals, right?
Yeah, but not all animals are mammals, so yeah.
Right. I don't understand the relevance of that statement. But like
Well,
here's like
because
do
sorry.
you mind if I just yeah. So you're saying like being gay is wrong because like you think that like all mammals are instinctively like like hetero, right? Well, like what we see is that like majority of all mammals are like instinctively hetero, right? But then we see like a pretty sizable minority of all mammals to be instinctively homosexual as well, right? And there's documentation of this that dates back, I mean, a very long time. This has been researched quite extensively over the last 100 years or so.
Yeah, but you're not talking about, like, exclusively being homosexual, right? It's like like a part of their, just a part of their sexuality, right?
I don't understand what you're saying at all. You just said all mammals are straight, and then I was like, well, that's just simply not true. We observe homosexuality in a lot of mammals.
You didn't understand what I said?
No, not at all. We also observe most
So first of
mammals
all,
eating
okay.
their own shit and graping their own cubs. Does
Yeah,
that
so
mean
first
that
of
it's
all-
okay to eat your own shit and grape your own cubs?
Yeah, so first of all, you didn't really understand the relevance of me saying that mammals are, like, not all animals are mammals, and I just said that because we are, like, all the other animals that are not mammals aren't as closely related to us, and so that's why I think it's of relevance.
Right. It doesn't matter though, because we observe homosexuality in closely related mammals. Thank you for the lemonade. But what else we observe in closely related mammals is them eating their own shit and graping their own babies. Does that mean it's okay to eat their own shit and to grape your babies because we observe it in other mammals?
No, it doesn't really say anything. But then again,
Okay, so then why do you think it says something when we observe most mammals exerting heterosexuality?
because it says something about just the natural way of behaving, and
Define natural.
well,
Ella, thank you for the duck.
just the majority, what the majority of
Right, is
animals
it
or
wrong to
mammals
is it-
do.
Okay, so something's okay if it's what the majority of mammals do.
Well, most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, so is eating your own shit okay?
Do most of the mammals eat their own shit?
Yes.
Don't think so, man.
No, that's absolutely true.
No, it's not true, man.
Okay, okay, then just dispute the claim. Give me something that says otherwise. Yes, most
Well,
mammals
I
eat their own
have cats at home, and they don't eat their own shit.
Right. So if we're determining what we should do based upon like what's predominantly done within the context of nature, are you saying that because predominantly within the context of nature we see grape, that we should also engage in that?
Are we? Are we seeing grape?
Yeah.
Yes.
In
Like
nature,
in the majority of
grape.
mammals? No, we aren't.
Yeah, we literally do see that in a
which
lot of
animal
animals.
types?
You want me to give you specifics like dolphins?
Elephants?
I'd have to look at elephants specifically.
I thought you said elephants. I'm sorry.
I said dolphins.
Dolphins. Well, that's one type of animal, but you don't see it in cats, for instance, right?
You don't think you see any grape in cats?
Well, I didn't.
Okay, so something's
I-
wrong if we.
I
only
think, and
observe
then
the
no,
Yeah,
it's not. No,
Yeah, so I think that we would, right?
no,
I don't know what
no.
you're talking about.
Well,
No,
I
can you give
have
me?
like I grew up with cats, and I just know the way they like
Wait, just
reproduce.
because your cats haven't done it doesn't mean.
Well, I've seen. It's not like I saw. I've been around like two cats. I've been like, around like hundreds of cats, and I've seen like I'm kind of traumatized by this, but I've seen a lot of cat sex, and it's always consensual, and if it's not, then the girl or the female cat just aborts. So yeah,
Okay,
there's not
so
a lot of rape. That's what I'm saying.
okay, so yeah,
With
so
dogs, the same thing.
I don't know how you're gonna determine that like that they consented. That's not really gonna follow
Well,
through
you
with me. But
can
like,
on the way they behave. Should I explain to you? Do you want to know? Because there is.
so can you explain to me how a cat can consent?
Yeah. So the first of all, the cat has to be in heat. Otherwise, she's not gonna like have it basically. And if she is, then like a male cat mounts the female cat, and she like moves her behind like I don't know what it's called, like her legs basically, her the two legs that are on the back, and if she moves it, then she's okay with it, and if she doesn't, she's not okay with it.
Okay, do we see in the context of nature, right? Most mammals are not going to live in homes. Does that mean we shouldn't live in homes? Like homes like we have. Like
No,
we can go live in like little like things that they have in nature, like sticks and stuff.
no, I don't really see how that's relevant, I guess.
So we're not saying that we should look at nature to determine what we should do.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
right? Is that was your argument, right?
I guess.
What do you mean? I guess.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's just so how can you determine? I don't know. I just how can you determine anything? Like how can you say anything is right or wrong if you just have a because you can find like a disproving you can disprove anything basically, right? Or find a counterpoint to everything that you're doing. So how can you even prove that I don't know, like walking is okay or
Thank you for the
anything
swan,
is
Sarah.
okay?
That walking is okay.
Yeah.
Again, there would be no good reason to consider walking to be right or
Or
wrong.
how can you even say that like killing other people is not okay if you can find an instance where it would
It's
be
not okay. So like, why would it be wrong? Why would killing someone be wrong?
Yeah. Like how
Yeah,
if you can find
you
a
could classify that based upon harm. You could classify that based upon the fact that you'd be violating their rights. You can classify that based upon utility functions. You can classify that
Yeah,
based
okay.
upon many things.
but you can make a counterpoint for harm. You can make a counterpoint for offending someone's rights. You can always find an argument where
Yeah,
it's okay.
not one
to-
that would be relevant in that circumstance.
That's who are you to decide that?
That would be my view. Sarah, I appreciate the swan. Thank you so much.
So why, if I can disprove or like if I can
Yeah,
find
go
a
for it. Try to
counterargument
do it.
every one of
Go
those
through.
things that you just listed, how is there a value?
Well,
like, how
the
is there
basis
something-
the basis is going to be the preference or the intuition, right? And then the different types of reasons that we give are going to account for that intuition. So you can try to respond to the reasons that we provided. Appreciate the coral. Thank you so much.
so like harm, for instance.
Hey,
Yeah, the fact that it would be causing harm in this particular circumstance would be relevant to us considering it to be wrong.
Yeah, but there are like a lot of like a million cases where harming someone is more than okay, and even like
Yeah, so can you give me
Sure.
a circumstance where unnecessary harm is beneficial?
well, unnecessary harm kind of implies that it's not necessary, so that's doesn't even
Yeah,
make sense.
can you give me evidence of? I mean, can you give me any circumstance where unnecessary harm is good?
Unnecessary means that it's not good, so it doesn't make any sense to even.
Wait,
ask that
that's not what
question.
unnecessary means.
What
It means
does unnecessary mean?
Not needed.
Not needed for what? So what for what? Tell me.
Unnecessary in relation to like reaching that goal.
Reaching what goal, man?
What I just referenced. What are you talking about?
You
bro?
said unnecessary harm.
Yes,
Unnecessary,
in relation
you
to
said
the goal.
reaching a goal, and I said
Yes.
for what goal? For what goal?
Dude, I'm talking a greater good. A goal would be like a greater good. Okay, so if there is, if
How
the
can you
harm
decide
isn't
what's the
used,
greater good? Do
hold
you know
on,
what
if
the
the harm
greater
isn't, that's under what is considered under your view or a utility function or something like that,
What?
right? It's a greater good would be determined by like a utility function or determined by your own view in terms of preference. Okay, unnecessary means not needed.
I know,
that make
that's what I
sense to
just
you?
said. Oh, well, you said, sorry.
Yeah, does that make sense?
No, what's the utility function? I don't really know what that is. Can you explain it
Yeah,
for me?
it would be like you trying to determine whether or not there is more, whether or not in a situation there is more or less, like good or versus bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but that's just, I think that's a circular argument, but
Okay, so pleasure versus pain, right? Whether or not you get more pleasure or more pain from a circumstance would be relevant to whether or not your function, the utility function, would indicate that you should or shouldn't engage in the action.
yeah, but that doesn't have anything to do with
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So
objective morality. You know what you're saying?
I don't believe in objective morality.
Yeah.
I'm so lost on the claim being made here. So your first claim is that it's wrong to be gay because we like don't observe it occurring in majority of any given member of most mammal species, right? And then like we like refuted that claim by the fact that that's just an appeal to nature and we don't base what is right and wrong based upon what animals do or don't do, and the fact that we do
Well,
not
you don't,
actually
maybe.
observe homosexuality. Is it wrong to wear shoes?
Is it the same, like, same appeal to...
Is it wrong to go on an iPhone?
Is it wrong to
go on
wear a
the
necklace?
iPhone? Is it wrong for you to be on this
No.
live?
Why would it?
Do most animals go on this live?
No.
So then, therefore, you don't base what is right and wrong based upon what we observe in most animals.
Yeah, but most animals have sexuality, and we do as well.
right.
Do most
But that's
exact
not
same
what I
thing?
said. I said we did make the choice. Those who have gotten to the age of accountability did make the
No, we would have never gone to the age of accountability if God sent us directly to heaven, which is what I'm referring to.
But that's
there is
not-
there's no
ultimately
reaching of
not-
age of accountability if they were sent directly to heaven.
The ultimate desire of God is for us to choose to love God. We cannot
You can do that in heaven.
to
Again,
the
they have
desire
free will in
He's
heaven.
looking for, right?
You have free will in heaven, right?
Because we've already made the choice.
Wait,
to
do
get
you have
to
free will in
heaven.
heaven? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, so you can make that decision.
Dude, you're arguing in a circle. We've made the
No, you're
decision to
arguing in
get
a
to
circle.
heaven. No, I'm saying you must make that decision to get to heaven. You can't get to heaven without making that decision.
Fetus, okay, they get to heaven without making that decision.
The fetus can't make the decision.
Exactly, right? We can't make the decision if we don't exist on earth, if we haven't reached the age of accountability. So send us directly to heaven. You're not understanding it. It literally
you're
applies
saying-
the same.
The only argument that you could make would be that we all die before the age of accountability. And then God could have created that which would be a
No,
superior
you don't have to
world.
die. You don't have to die. You just never were sent to earth in the first place. You just are sent straight to heaven.
Okay, so then
Earth wouldn't even be a concept that exists anymore.
we're not fulfilling God's intentions, God's greatest desire.
Again, you can because you have free will in heaven.
We have to have made the choice when we had the morally significant
No,
freedom. to reject
then the
it.
fetus wouldn't be able to exist in heaven.
I've already explained to you.
Is there a meaningful
incapable of
relationship
making
between
decisions.
is there a meaningful relationship between the fetus in heaven and between God?
Yes.
Yes, there is. Okay, so that exists without going to Earth. So Earth is
That doesn't mean
unnecessary.
it's the same. You can have
Wait, no, you just
meaningful
proved my point.
relationships
You
with
just
a
proved my point.
subjective-
Earth is
no, that's a
unnecessary.
subjective claim. It could be meaningful in a different way than it is with somebody who could make the morally significant
I'm
decision.
talking under God's view, meaningful under God's view. Okay, if it's meaningful enough, that means that you reached the stage, you reached the goal that you wanted without going to Earth. Okay, so if you reach the goal that you wanted, a meaningful relationship without going to Earth, that indicates to us that, again, it's unnecessary. Why? Because it's not true in all circumstances.
If God creates us in heaven, He causally determined us to love Him and choose to get into heaven.
Okay, so he causally determined the individual who is the fetus to love him. Is that your view?
No.
So that's not your view.
Dude, the
like,
contradiction's
dude,
crazy.
It's
The
actually
contradiction's
wild.
so fucking crazy.
How did I
I'm just sitting
contradict
back and listening, and I'm going to continue to do this, but the contradictions are fucking crazy.
How did I contradict myself?
Did you just hear yourself?
You just said that, like, in order to get into heaven, like, God cannot causally determine you to love him, and then you said that God did not, or that you must love him, but God cannot causally determine you to love them. But then you said the fetus can get into heaven, and that God did not causally determine the fetus to love them.
And they never experienced anything on Earth. So again, it just proves Earth is unnecessary.
The fetus was incapable of freely choosing to love God.
Oh my God, you just made the same point that we already went over. Truth over tea. We already went over this point. What was my response?
You just said that means that since there's an exception,
Again,
everybody
prior to you existing, or prior to you ever being on Earth, prior to any human ever being on Earth, their soul could have been sent straight to heaven, and they wouldn't have had a choice because they didn't exist on Earth yet and hit the age of accountability. Same thing's fucking true both ways. I don't know why I have to go over the same thing over and over again for you to pick apart the same fucking questions again over and over again. Would you like to actually engage with the points that I've already brought up, or would you like to keep going over the same thing over and over again?
I'm telling you, God's highest intention, his highest desire is for us to choose to freely love him with the
That exists in heaven already, dude. We already went over this.
No, you're like skipping the trip. Like if we exist in heaven from start, that means God causally determined us to be in heaven. If we don't exist
yes. And that's not an issue, as it wasn't the issue in the context of the fetus, right? That went directly to heaven.
But that's not, like, you're comparing apples and oranges here.
And watch him say it's only because they didn't have a choice. But if it was the case that we were sent directly to heaven, we wouldn't have had a choice either. I like how he just keeps evading that. Would you like to address that?
I don't see how that's relevant to God.
Oh my God, no way.
Choice. How's
What
that
are you
relevant?
talking about? Because we didn't have a choice. We didn't hit their age of accountability because we didn't exist yet in terms of the material world. The material world didn't exist yet. Therefore, we had no choice to the same degree that the fetus had no choice. Does that make sense?
But that's not what God desires, so that doesn't matter.
What do you mean? What do you mean? God doesn't desire heaven?
God doesn't desire us to not make that.
Wait, you already said heaven was better, right? If heaven is better, that means God does desire it. You already conceded earlier in the conversation that God desired. You're now walking back on points that you already conceded on earlier in the conversation.
That's not making the same point. That's a false equivocation.
What do you mean? How is it a false equivalency?
Because I said that God's desire, yes, heaven is better. God thinks heaven is better than it is on earth. But God's desire for us to morally choose to love him, right, with morally.
It exists in heaven as well. That because it exists with that. You just made the same
it
point.
Exists
We just went over
because it's
6
already
times.
been made. The choice has already been made.
Like, okay, come on, man. Are you just gonna say the same thing over and over again after I've literally responded to it
You
multiple
have
times?
not defeated my.
Yes, I have.
No, you haven't.
Don't gaslight me. Don't gaslight me. That's absolute bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. I literally have this recorded, right? You can literally watch this back, right? You can see yourself literally scramble and go over the exact same point after I literally explained it multiple times. This is absolutely disingenuous for you to make a claim that I'm literally not engaging with it when I've explained it multiple times very patiently to you.
I never said you're not engaging it. I just said you didn't defeat it.
I did. I really did. Because it's the exact same conditions in both stances. Appreciate the cowboy hat. Thank you. It would have been expected that we would be in heaven as God thinks that's better. If there's a more preferable world and it still holds on to things like free will, right? There's no reason as to why God would not have expressed that. As God is all good, indicating that he would prefer the best, would pick the best or the most preferred world. If something's better, that would indicate that he would pick that world over a world in which was not as good.
Okay, that's not the argument I was making.
All else
that's
constant.
a great straw man, but that's not the argument I was making.
What? Dude, I was giving the internal critique to you. What are you talking about?
You weren't addressing my actual position. I said God's highest desire is that we choose in a world where we don't have to, or we choose in a world that's not causally determined by him to love him.
Wait, so the fetus that literally was sent directly to heaven. Okay, in that scenario, that fetus was causally determined by God to be in that state of affairs, correct?
To be aborted? No,
to be in heaven.
So that was not God's.
Thank you so much.
It was not God's desire for that to happen, but it's something that happened.
No, but God causally determined them instead of just ceasing to exist to go to heaven.
They haven't sinned. Well, nobody ceased to exist. If Christianity is true, then we're all immortal. We all have souls that last forever. So there's no such thing as annihilationism. Second off,
I don't think that's necessarily true, but
I can.
Again, there are people from your own religion that would disagree with you. That's a different conversation.
I know they do, and I'm prepared to defend my position against that. But anyways, That's God allows that to happen because that has to happen in order for there to be this morally significant freedom, right? But that is not what God desires. God does not want that to happen. But the just decision in order, like, what would be just? To allow them to go to hell or to heaven?
I understand that you would want them to go to heaven. I understand that you consider
No.
That's not my point, though. My point, though, is that they go to heaven without going to earth. Do you agree?
They're already on earth.
No, if they go to heaven without going to earth, do you agree that that's what they did in that scenario? They went to heaven without going to earth.
The fetus was on earth.
No, not their brain states. We're talking prior to like a brain state.
It's irrelevant.
That is not irrelevant, actually.
So now we have a problem.
Yeah, but then there's not experience of it.
It didn't have the capability of having.
Yeah, it didn't have the capability of experience, yet it's still sent to heaven.
Actually, no, that's not true. Existing in itself is a form of experience.
No, a zygote doesn't experience anything.
Yes, it does. It experiences being alive. It may not realize it's experiencing being alive.
What do you mean?
Define experience.
What is the experience? Yeah.
Just going through a series of time or events.
Going through a series of time or events?
Existing within a series of...
Do you think a rock experiences something? Because it goes through a series of events?
Well, rock is not like a sentient or conscious...
Neither is a fucking zygote.
A fetus.
But there's a zygote.
A fetus is alive, right? It's not dead. A rock is alive or dead. So let me change that.
Yeah, just because it's alive. Wait, so do you think plants are?
Plants are living beings, yes.
Do you think plants would meet that standard, though?
Plants do experience.
Or microorganisms. Do you think
they experience things? Yes.
You think microorganisms experience things?
Absolutely.
That is ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous?
Right, as when we're talking about experience, we're talking about some sort of conceptualization. Right? There's honestly no professional would tell you that microorganisms are sentient.
Even if that were the case, that's just an argument from authority.
Oh, come on. Can you give me any argumentation to justify that they have an experience?
They live. That's all.
Them living does not indicate an experience. Can you justify that them living indicates an experience?
So to encounter or undergo is a definition of experience. So to encounter life is a form of experience. So your position.
So rocks undergo or encounter particular phenomena. Do they experience it? Appreciate
gravity. They undergo and encounter gravity.
Yeah.
Right?
Technically, you could say that rocks experience gravity. That wouldn't be a lot.
dude, that's not what we mean by experience. That'd be then an equivocation.
Okay,
of what
so
we mean by experience.
you're now changing. You're moving the goalpost to your own definition of experience. What do you mean by definition of experience?
Yeah, we're going to refer to like some notion of like awareness or conceptualization.
Okay, that would be more like consciousness than experience.
No, not necessarily. Consciousness would be self-awareness.
So you just said awareness. So now you're changing.
Awareness and self-awareness are two different things. He doesn't listen. Self-awareness and awareness are two fundamentally different things. Do you agree? Yes or no?
I mean, you could say they could be synonymous.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
They could be synonymous.
They're not synonymous. Self-awareness is different from awareness.
Are you not aware if you're self-aware?
Okay, but are you necessarily self-aware if you're aware? Wait, are you necessarily self-aware if you're aware? No.
Yeah,
you can be aware, but not be self-aware.
In order to be self-aware,
you're not listening. It doesn't go both ways, though. Right? In order to be self-aware, you have to be aware. But in order to be aware, you do not have to be self-aware. That's where you're mistaken.
How can you be aware of something?
That's fucking so annoying
for
you to say some dumb shit like that because you fucking know that's false.
How can you be aware of something if you're not self-aware?
Most animals.
Oh my God, is he not listening to me?
Explain
oh my
to
God.
me.
Right. Wait. Okay, wait, actually, you think that you can't be aware of something if you're not self-aware.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, do you think that newborn babies are aware? Thank you for the shiny air balloon. I appreciate it, Isaac. Thank you so much.
Aware of newborn babies?
Is a newborn baby aware? Yes.
Yes.
Right? Okay, are they self-aware?
Yes.
No scientist would indicate that they're self-aware. They do not become self-aware until at least like 3 years old, dude.
Can you define aware and define self-aware?
That is fucking ridiculous.
So,
that is
example,
so
would you say
so fucking
it would
stupid.
count as being self-aware if you know that you're hungry?
If you know that you're hungry, that would be a biological response. That doesn't necessarily indicate.
Are you aware that you're hungry?
You can be aware, but not self-aware.
Appreciate
the confetti. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So let's look at the definition. Right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Actually, that's going to be instinctual response, right? I believe that hunger is an instinctual response.
Self-aware is having conscious knowledge of one's own character and feelings, right? which a newborn baby is definitely conscious and definitely self-aware under that definition.
No. Self-aware is not going to be defined as
That
like,
is the
so like I
definition.
can give you no. I can give you many animals other than humans, right? That are necessarily like aware and get hungry, right? But they're not self-aware.
Dude, you're
We could see
changing
self-aware by
definitions
things like
to fit the narrative. This is
that?
insane. The definition, if you Google self-aware, is having conscious knowledge of one's own character and feelings.
No, I would deem self-awareness to do with like,
Conscious relates back to self-awareness, so that's just going to beg the question of what you mean by self-awareness. And what we would generally or typically refer to as self-awareness, we'd describe as like one that can like actually like fulfill like what we'd consider like a mirror test or the things like that, right? That would be our notions of like self-awareness, right? But that's not attributed by newborn babies. That's not attributed by lots of other types of animals, right? So clearly speaking, we're not going to indicate that most animals, right, have self-awareness. So this whole point that you're making here, that fucking microorganisms can have like sentient experience and self-awareness, is fucking ridiculous. Under your worldview, you literally believe microorganisms are fucking conscious.
like I like a good way to
Wait, you don't think microorganisms are conscious?
No! What?
Oh man, I don't know how you explain how consciousness arises then.
What do you fucking mean, dude? A microorganism is conscious, dude.
You said it is, or
I'll let
isn't?
you go. It's not. It's not conscious.
So how did consciousness arise?
What do you mean? How did consciousness arise?
you
Consciousness
believe
is gonna
in
arise due to
Darwinian
like particular
evolution?
types of brain states,
Do
which
you
are not
believe in Darwinian
described by just
evolution?
microorganisms. Microorganisms do not have the capacity to have some type of conscious experience. That's wild. You have to have some sort of brain state or mental state to be able to do that.
Okay, well, count for consciousness arising on naturalism with that point of view, but okay.
yeah
What?
a nervous
We can't
system.
arise for brains existing? I appreciate the crown. Thank you. That is such an incoherent stance. We can't account for brains existing under the naturalist worldview. That's truth for truth over T's
That's
view.
not what I said. Is that
No,
what I
that's
said?
Literally what you just said.
I said consciousness, not brains.
Yeah, consciousness is derivative of these brain states interacting in terms of
I
them
would
being,
disagree with
right?
that.
That is literally what are you talking about?
I
You
would
don't
say
think
it's
consciousness
reliant
is
on
derivative
mental
of the
states and
prefrontal
brain
cortex with thalamical cortical connections, right? Do you not think it's solely based upon the development of those characteristics?
I think that it's based on mental states and brain states for humans, but there are conscious creatures other than humans. There are conscious things like microorganisms that don't have brains. Otherwise, like
Define consciousness.
so, like a basic definition. If I want to be simply explanatory, I can just say something that's self-aware or something that's capable of. Let me just.
Sweet.
I just want to hear one reputable institution in which
Not
indicates that microorganisms are self-aware. Please give
There's
me
a-
one.
Right.
why
So
would
I think you guys kind of
that's
discuss
an argument with
you guys kind of discuss like the notion.
No,
of
give me one reputable institution, right? It's
So-
this is a more likely assertion because there's
The state,
there's
okay,
senses of
consciousness,
evidence.
the state of being awake.
They're
and
better
aware
at
of
making.
one's
Wait, hold on.
surroundings.
Thank you for the hanging lights. I appreciate it. Do you agree that there are some people that are better at making scientific claims than you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then that's not necessarily an argument from authority. That's gonna be an argument from a better fucking position.
You have to provide the
Because
actual
that's
argument.
more likely to
not-
be true.
Can you? No, you
Yeah,
have to
give me
provide
any
the actual
reputable
argument.
institution because they could be
That's-
more likely to be true than my stance.
Providing an argument just because the institution says so is literally the definition of an argument.
No, we're saying what's
You have to
more
give the
likely to be
actual
true.
argument.
No, it's not based on it's based on what's more likely to be true. And if what they're saying is more likely to be true than what we're saying, then clearly we're going to take that over what we're just saying. Okay? So would you like to provide me any institution, reputable institution that indicates that to be true or any professional in general?
So the definition of consciousness, is that what we're asking for?
No, I asked you to give me any institution, a reputable like scientist or anything, biologist that says that fucking microorganisms are conscious.
Well, I don't need an institution to tell you that
Yeah,
consciousness.
because no one fucking agrees with you.
Well, let me
Right.
Appreciate the count.
And-
Thank you.
and then-
make my point, and then you can see if you can refute it. Is that fair?
And then once again, like the notion of like self-awareness is pretty much going to be like one's ability to like recognize themselves as separate entities from their environment. And this is where like you'd get lost when you would assign this notion to like microorganisms, because it's obviously not the case, or it's obviously not the case that they can recognize themselves as separate entities from their environment. And this would also be like shared with like newborn babies or like most animals in the animal kingdom, etc. Right? So it's quite obvious that consciousness would not be derivative of self-awareness.
Okay, so consciousness is defined as the state of being awake and aware of one's surroundings. So are we saying that newborn babies aren't capable of that?
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
I
they're
agree that
conscious.
they're
Okay,
aware,
So
Right?
Yeah,
That's not-
newborn
now-
babies are
that's not-
conscious.
That's not. That,
Okay,
no,
so
no,
now
no,
let's
no.
look at the self-awareness definition again, having conscious knowledge of
depends on what
one's
you
own
mean.
character
So,
and feelings.
so then there would be a distinction between conscious and consciousness then, because consciousness would be a notion of self-awareness, not just awareness. Okay.
Okay.
That's where I would say that we get a little confusing with the different ways that we're defining these terms.
Okay, well, I define self-aware as having conscious knowledge of one's own character and feelings. Do we not agree with that?
Wait, conscious knowledge of what? Say that again.
Having conscious knowledge of one's own character and feelings.
Having conscious knowledge of one's own characters and feelings. That's what consciousness?
No, self-aware. To be self-aware.
So I mean, self-aware. We would just see through like my basis. I wouldn't even say we need to necessarily define it. I would say we could point
Thank
towards
you, Rose.
examples when it relates to self-awareness in terms of like a mirror test.
Yeah.
Right.
Would
I would
you-
say that would probably be the best way to define it. Right. But if you want to define it that way, that would be separate from the way that I'm referencing it.
Right. Then also, would you say that something can exhibit no response to external stimuli and be conscious or self-aware?
Something can exhibit no response to eternal stimuli and be conscious.
External. Yeah. So, like under your notion, you're gonna have to die on the hill that these entities that do not exhibit any form of responses to external stimuli have consciousness. They're self-aware, and this is obviously not going to be the case.
So I'm not sure I'm getting, because there's like, that's kind of a subjective question. What can you give me an example?
It's not subjective at all. Is there forms of microbiology that we see exhibit no responses to external stimuli?
What kind of responses?
Any.
Okay. So the problem is, like, we may not be able to physically see the response. That doesn't mean that there is no internal response that we just can't see.
Would you be able to justify the notion that there would be?
I'm saying you can't prove that there isn't. So why are we trying to prove, like, that either way, we're not going
Well,
to get
you're
it.
asserting a positive claim.
I'm saying that the definitions that I've given, we can see that microorganisms, maybe not every single microorganisms, but there are microorganisms, right, that have the state of being awake and aware
How do
of
you
one's
differentiate?
surroundings.
Wait. So you said all microorganisms because you're making a claim that just because there's biological life or cellular life when it relates to the zygote, right? That means that there's like consciousness. That was your claim.
Right.
So no, that I was saying that's when life began. So the science.
No, but you were saying that's also
embryology-
consciousness because you said that you were also saying consciousness. Appreciate the subscription. Thank you so much. Because that was your response to this, to
I
then
was
say
talking
like,
about
oh,
newborns.
they weren't aware of they were aware of things on Earth.
No, I was talking about
Therefore, it
newborns.
was necessary for them to go to Earth to then reach this point.
Okay, so this is going back to fetuses, right? Zygotes was not the conversation. Fetus was the conversation. Fetuses.
No. We could relate to well because you were. I didn't think you were questioning the idea that that mental states are required, right?
Yeah.
Particular mental states are required, but like you are questioning that idea. So I'll use an earlier stage, right, which does happen, and they wouldn't have reached the age of accountability. So the same principle would apply to them that you applied earlier.
So again, you can't do an abortion with a zygote. That's not possible.
Yeah, but they flush out of the system.
What do you mean they flush out of the
They
system?
flush out of the system. They're like,
Zygote.
I think only 15% of zygotes after fertilization actually what's it called? Actually are birthed.
Yeah, and it also depends on how you like define abortion, right? Because there's like pills that can stop the providence of like a mother's bodily components to a zygote to quote unquote flush it out of the system, and this would be like this would like mark the cessation of that zygote's natural life. Therefore, it would follow under the same principle.
Well, the initial conversation was an aborted fetus, and so that
But in
was
principle, there shouldn't be
stuff.
anything different. In principle, there shouldn't be anything that would differentiate the aborted fetus from this, quote unquote, aborted zygote under your notion that we're going to see like some necessary correlation between biological life and self-awareness or consciousness.
But that was the conversation. Now we've shifted to a zygote, which
I mean, I don't see any like logical shifts being made.
Well, no, the point was that because you were literally, I didn't think I just told you the reason, and he literally just questioned it again. Like it's actually so fucking annoying, right? I just told you, I thought you weren't questioning the mental states. Now I know you were questioning the mental states, so I used a scenario in which the mental states did not necessarily exist, yet the same principle applies. Does that, like, I literally just clarified it and you just question the same fucking thing. Truthful, do you actually like want to legitimately engage?
Yes. Like, how many times are you going to ask me that? Why would I be here talking to you?
Appreciate the elephant. Thank you so much.
It just seems like a disingenuous question.
No, it's not. No, it's not, because you're the one that's disingenuously engaging when I have to like answer the same thing over and over again that I already established in the conversation.
Well, when you give a bad answer, I'm going to make you repeat yourself.
I'm not. It's not a bad answer. It wasn't a bad answer because I gave the same fucking answer and you accepted it. Like, that's just how stupid you sound right now. I'm not joking. No, I am angry right now because I literally just went over the same thing a fucking million times, and then you tried to gaslight because I gave the same fucking answer and you accepted it. So that's how I know it wasn't an answer that you didn't accept on the basis of the argument. It's the fact that you just wanted me to go over the same fucking thing again. And then you're getting angry at the fact that, or I mean, getting not angry. You're getting like defensive of the fact that I'm responding in this particular way.
No, I'm just calling out facts. That's all. But consciousness, the definition that I had given, the state of being awake and aware of one's surroundings. And when we were talking about that, we were talking about newborn babies. And then you jumped over to zygotes. Now, I said that microorganisms would exhibit a form of consciousness. And the reason that I said this is a problem, if you say that that's not true.
First, do you want to acknowledge the fact that I literally said the same thing over again, and then you literally fucking accepted it right after? So do you want to acknowledge the fact that you just disingenuously engaged in argumentation?
How did I? Please.
I just explained. Do you want me to explain what I just explained again? Oh my God, how many more times do you want me to explain the same thing? This is what I mean. Every single time I explain something, you make me explain it 3-4 times in a row and then don't even engage with the explanation. I just explained it to you. I literally just explained it.
It didn't make sense. So.
What do you mean it didn't make sense? What didn't make sense?
You're saying that I made an argument that I didn't make. You're saying you made this argument earlier about consciousness, and now I'm going to move the goalpost to zygotes, but that's not what happened.
No, I said that. No, I referenced the mental states. Right? I gave you that explanation. You said that wasn't a sufficient explanation. That's why I questioned it. Right? And then I gave you the same explanation and you accepted it.
Okay. So you reference mental states in what?
Yeah. I thought you were requiring those mental states in order for there to be some sort of subjective experience or consciousness. You disputed that. I saw that you actually accepted the fact that, even zygotes or microorganisms can have a consciousness or self-awareness. So if that is the case, then I wouldn't require these sorts of, I mean, not those, you said it wasn't like a requiring mind state. So then I then asked about like a zygote, and I asked about like those other things because they don't have those types of mental states. They don't require a brain. I mean, they don't have a brain. That's what I'm saying. That's what I brought up.
So I don't think I argued against that, something that can't have mental states or is incapable of being conscious. Like I didn't argue that zygotes are conscious. So if you think I
did,
said that,
wait, you were arguing earlier that what?
I never said that zygotes are conscious and consciousness is not the same thing. And so
what does it mean to have consciousness? It means that what does it mean to have consciousness?
So I've read this definition like 5 times. The state of being awake and aware of one's surroundings.
Awake and aware. If you are, would you say that the zygote had?
So the zygote is not capable, at least from what embryologists say.
You said it's conscious, but it doesn't have consciousness.
Yes. Well, it's not unconscious. It's awake.
I don't know how it's awake if it doesn't have a fucking brain.
Adding the awareness is like where the differentiation between consciousness and conscious is. Like if you're unconscious, like you're sleeping. That's an example of being unconscious.
Wait, so a zygote is not aware?
Probably not, because it doesn't have the mental states to be able to be awake.
But it's conscious. What does conscious mean?
Do you mind if I ask a question?
To be awake.
Wait, hold on. Before you do, Dean, what does conscious mean?
I'm going to say to be awake.
See, what does awake mean?
To not be sleeping.
What does not be sleeping mean? You're aware?
You're awake.
It means you're fucking aware?
To not be awake. You can.
What does it mean? Aware? Aware? Does that mean aware?
If you're not awake?
Yeah. No, being awake, does that mean aware?
So I'm just saying, if you are awake, like if you okay, let's use Google here. Awake, to stop sleeping, wake from sleep, not asleep. That's the definition.
Not asleep. Yeah. What does it mean to not be asleep?
To not be sleeping. What it's like. What does it mean to not be asleep? It's to be not sleeping, to be awake. Like I don't understand. You just asked me the definition of awake. Now you're asking me what the definition of awake means.
Yeah, I am asking you what the definition of awake means, right? Because again, you're relating to a notion of like what is sleep would be like when you're in an unconscious state. An unconscious state means you're not aware of things, right? Like outside in like the outside and like your general awareness. Do you agree?
So an easy definition, I think, would be fair: to be in a state of sleep or to be asleep, to be unconscious. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm. And when you say conscious, you're not saying aware.
So if I'm saying conscious, not consciousness, conscious. If we look up the definition, let's just be fair here. We use Google and look up the definition of conscious.
Would you say that a unicellular organism would
aware of and responding to one's surroundings? That's what conscious means. Okay, so if you can see that they're conscious, you agree that they are aware.
Okay,
you'd also be dying on some crazy. You'd be dying on like the craziest hills here, even under your own notions of what it means to be conscious, awake, asleep, aware, etc. Because like you'd basically just have to fully concede to the point that a unicellular organism would exhibit a higher level of net consciousness than like a human when they're asleep, right? So I think that it's really important when we're understanding notions of consciousness, self-consciousness, awareness, sentience, etc., that we have to understand the literature surrounding it, right? So typically what we're going to deem to be in correlation to the experience of consciousness is going to be something called qualia, right? And this is basically going to be like the subjective collection of like interpersonal notions of experiences in one's mind, right? It's the mind, right? And this mind is going to be something that is explained under your theistic worldview as the soul, and under our naturalistic worldview is a complex interplay of cognitive functions such as the thalamocortical connections, the nervous system, and the prefrontal cortex, etc., right? However, regardless of the worldview, rather theistic or naturalistic, we can all like collectively agree that the sense of qualia would not be exerted by unicellular organisms, zygotes, or fetuses, right? So, I mean, overall, it's very important to realize to realize these notions. I mean, do you accept this? Do you deny this? Because it seems as if you've just been denying this the entire time.
Well, I'm not making the claim that the consciousness of a microbe or a single cell organism would be equivalent to that of a human.
Well, listen, I mean, did you just listen to me? I'm making the claim that not only is it not equivalent, but there's like none, right? Because I just explained to you, like the notion of what qualia is and how qualia would act in accordance or relation to consciousness or subjective awareness, sentience, etc., right? Mm-hmm. And like when we actually dive into the literature, it becomes very self-apparent that unicellular organisms or zygotes or fetuses would not exhibit qualia, therefore they would not exhibit consciousness. Qualia is necessary for consciousness.
So if we Google the definition of qualia, right? I'm familiar with qualia, the internal and subjective component of sense perceptions arising from stimulation of the senses by phenomena.
Right, and this is going to be necessary for consciousness. And would you agree that it is impossible for a zygote or a unicellular organism to exhibit qualia?
I would not agree that's impossible.
You're insane.
Okay, so prove it.
All right. Well, it seems as if we do not observe any form of mind, rather that be, the soul as explained under your worldview, or just a complex interplay of cognitive abilities. Thalamocortical connections, our nervous system as explained under our worldview, and unicellular organisms, or within, a zygote, because both of these things would not possess any form of nervous system.
So again, that doesn't prove your argument. You prove that it's impossible.
Yeah, because nervous system is necessary for consciousness. Neither of these entities have a nervous system. Therefore, we can deductively conclude that it would be metaphysically impossible, under this modal notion that you seem to be presenting, for them to be conscious.
That's a black swan fallacy, because I haven't seen it before. Therefore, it's not true.
No, it's not that we haven't seen it. We've deemed that it does not exist, right? We understand what a nervous system is, and to be a complex interplay of neurons, right? And we understand this to not exist within a zygote before a certain stage of development, or unicellular organism. Absolutely, it's not a black swan fallacy, right? We're not saying that we don't see it. We're saying that it doesn't exist.
You can say that we don't have evidence of it, maybe, but you can't say it's impossible, which is why I said I wouldn't make that claim.
Wait, are you saying just if something like inherently like, you know, has like some like notion of modal possibility that it must therefore exist? Because you're making an assertment that it does, right? And is the only justification for this assertment like the metaphysical possibility of it? This seems to be like quite arbitrary, right?
No, you asked me if it was impossible. Right? And I have no way to prove that it's impossible.
Impossible under what notion?
Logically impossible.
So wait, what do you mean when you say logically impossible?
Like it is not possible for this to happen.
So that's circular. What do you mean when you say logically impossible?
There is no way for this to happen. No conceptual, no way at all. Either.
I mean, if that's your notion of impossibility, then yeah, sure. We see a necessary correlation between the nervous system and qualia, and we do not see a nervous system. Therefore, we would not observe qualia. And we've already denoted that qualia would be necessary for consciousness. There you go. Under your notion of impossibility, it is impossible.
So you think that it's impossible for this to happen?
Under your notion of impossibility, absolutely. I would take a different notion of like logical impossibility, but it seems to pertain under your definition that would be the case.
Okay, so if we look up logical impossibility, like, and you know what the definition of this is. I don't have the top of my head.
You just told me what your definition was.
I don't make up definitions. I mean, ultimately, I don't think truth is objective.
We all do. We all make up definitions. Are you kidding me?
But I'm saying, like, I don't determine the definition of impossible. I have an idea of what the definition of impossible is, right? Obviously,
sure, you obviously determine the definition of impossible. What the fuck?
No, I can discover it.
You use language. Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you know what the French word for impossible is?
No.
I don't know. Let's just look it up real quick. Impossible in French. Let's see. It's like CEST, impossible, right? So it's something like that. So this is like some linguistic tool being used to refer to a particular proposition. So like you would be subjectively like showing some correlation between any given linguistic term and the proposition that you conceptualize in your mind. So you do indeed make up the definitions of these things.
So if we're reading the same word and there's an objective definition.
Objective definitions don't exist.
There's no such thing as an objective definition.
Absolutely, because definitions are inherently mind dependent.
Okay. So would you say that the laws of logic are subjective?
No.
Okay. How are they defined?
Oh yeah, in a descriptive sense, they're subjective, but like the inherent correlation to reality is not subjective, right?
Okay, so I just defeated the position that you're at.
Not at all. The definitions of the laws of logic are subjective. No, the definitions of like when we define it in any given like language, right? The proposition, like propositionally speaking, the laws of logic are objective. Absolutely.
Okay. So, and let me adjust my definition of logically impossible. Let's say something that's contradictory or against the laws of logic.
You're right.
So, no, I could not prove that it's logically impossible for a single cell organism to not have some form of primitive consciousness.
Therefore,
I cannot prove that.
Therefore, what? What's the conclusion?
It's just a statement.
What's the conclusion of the statement? What's the relevance?
Well, that was what we were originally talking about.
No, not at all.
Yes, it is. That's what you asked me. And then you used my...
Because what we're doing is like, no, here's what we're doing. Like, so we're like asserting the notion that these things would not possess this, right? So something could possess a logical possibility, but we could still have a justified stance in regarding to saying it would not possess this, right? For you to just assert, oh, it's logically possible, therefore you can't say it doesn't. That's just skepticism, right? It's logically possible that you are a brain in a vat. Would you then therefore also would you then therefore also conclude that you're a brain in the vat?
I would conclude it's not logically impossible that I am not a brain, or that I am.
But this is going to contradict the conclusion of your earlier stance, because you didn't assert simply it's not logically impossible for it to occur. You asserted that it did indeed occur, right? So now it seems like me and Parker have just boiled you down to saying it's not logically possible for it to for it to occur, when you know that this is obviously not like the original stance given. Like you're just like you're playing mental gymnastics to work your way out of just accepting it now.
I'm not. So
absolutely no, because you boiled down from the assertment that fucking unicellular organisms and zygotes are conscious to it's logically possible for it to happen. That is absurd. It's obtuse. It's annoying, and I've honestly lost respect for you because of that.
I don't really care. That's fine. That has nothing to do with the argument. Like, so let's go back to what
right. The logical possibility of it has nothing to do with the argument when we're talking about a stance driven by a reasonable form of justification.
So we can say, so you don't think that single cell organisms have any form of primitive consciousness at all?
We have no justification for that claim.
So how did consciousness arise on a naturalistic view?
Yeah.
We already answered that question earlier. True Liberty. I'm not gonna. We did. I already told you the mental states, right? The brain states. You said that you rejected, right, evolutionary processes and naturalistic processes being able to lead to particular brain states existing.
Right? Okay. So you didn't like explain. You just assumed that because we have brain states and mental states, therefore we have consciousness. How did that come? If Darwinian evolution is true, which is what you have to believe. You have to believe that we came from a single cell organism, right? Because there is no theism in your view. So how did consciousness come when there was no consciousness?
You have to, oh my God, you believe that you're saying consciousness has to come from consciousness?
Well, I'm just asking you what your explanation is from a naturalistic view.
Are you saying that
the benefit of the doubt?
Okay, no, I thought that's what you were implying there, right? So when it relates to consciousness existing, we're just saying that under the naturalist worldview, right, that there's going to be like adaptations, there's going to be mutations, right, and it's going to be able to lead to like more complex outcomes that would be predicted or expected under this particular model, right? So us predicting, seeing what's it called, like brain states in which produce like some sort of awareness or consciousness would be something that we would expect to see under that hypothesis. I don't see how that would be unexpected.
It's just the emergence of the nervous system, right?
So how did that happen? If there's no consciousness, just a being, a single cell organism just floating, how does it survive?
What do you mean, how does it survive, right? It doesn't need awareness in order to survive. There's instinctual response.
So if you're not aware of how to use your instinctual responses,
you don't have to be aware to instinctually respond.
Okay. So what were these instinctual responses that don't require consciousness?
Just like things that we would observe in microorganisms, like the responses that they have.
Like
how they interact with things around them? Like basic things like that? Like, what do you want me to explain to you?
Like, it just seems like there's no explanation here. So
what do you mean it seems like there's no explanation?
Here's my problem.
Like there being reflexes, is that not the explanation?
Reflexes.
Like we observe that to be the case?
So we're saying reflexes are what allowed them to continue to exist, and then supposedly through natural selection and genetic mutation, they were able to become people today.
Yeah, over like extended periods of time. I appreciate the handout. Thank you so much. There was a increase in complexity, which can lead to things like consciousness. Yes.
So how did, so it went from unconscious to one point.
I don't know why you're laughing at that. You think a magic man exists in the fucking sky and literally created it by nature of just his greatness, right? That's what you believe.
You think that the magic happened with no magic man?
Appreciate your sweet. Thank you so much. No, we have evidence, observable evidence to indicate that it happened, right? In this particular way.
Happened?
We see it continually happening this way. That different types of traits are added to the particular genomes, right, of entities based upon adaptations and mutations.
Interesting. So when have we ever observed, like, what's the most...
When have we observed this? Really?
No, let me finish the question. When have we observed a microorganism become a human being?
We
outside
haven't
of the
seen a
zygote.
microorganism become a human being. I'm saying that we've observed these characteristics that, given time, would be able to cause like other types of things happen, like speciation, which we've also observed amongst different types of
Speciation remains
And is observation
No, it's
necessary?
species.
What's the scope of observation, and how is observation necessary?
So hold on. You said before your point, Dean. You said speciation can lead to this. What species?
No. I'm saying that like these types of characteristics will lead towards speciation. Speciation then ending up leading towards other types of things that could occur.
So speciation, did that ever go outside of the family of animal?
What do you mean outside of the family of animal?
So are you familiar with the taxonomic scale?
I know what it's referring to, right? Are you trying to say that humans are like not animal?
So no, before I even get to that, you're saying that speciation is a form of how we got to where we are today. If that were the case, microorganisms would never, like bacteria, for example, would never get out of a bacteria state because it would just be another species of bacteria. It has to go to another genus, to another family, to another class, to another
Do you
kingdom.
understand that given time, speciation can lead to those particular things happening?
We've never observed that, so I don't know how you can make that claim.
Now, this just wraps back around to my question: why is observation necessary?
So no, but the point would be the case that again we see a trend towards this particular thing occurring, right? I don't see what you're referring to in terms of like these particular respects, saying that we would have to go further than identifying that there's speciation. These characteristics can change over time to demonstrate the idea that there can be an accruing of complex traits over time. Right. And actually, again, we don't even have to justify a naturalist worldview or a naturalist explanation to say that yours is wrong.
What do you mean?
I don't have to hold to a naturalist worldview to say that you're wrong.
So what position would you
I
take?
can hold to no position. I can hold to no position,
Okay.
which is actually what I do. I don't think there's a sufficient explanation.
Okay. So you can have no position because there is.
Yeah. I can have no explanation. Yes.
Okay. So why would you take that and then critique my view?
Because I think that your view is bad and harmful, right?
As
Even though I
opposed
don't have a
to
view.
what better view?
It doesn't have to be as opposed to a different, better view, right? It can be the case that like I can dispute particular explanations without having an explanation myself.
What are you comparing?
Like, for example, right? Let's say that like I don't know what caused my stomach to hurt, right, this morning, right? But I know for certain that it's not, right, squash, because I didn't eat squash. Okay.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
that
I can
supposed to-
rule out an explanation even though I don't know what the explanation is.
But you know for an objective fact you didn't eat squash. Are you saying you know
your
for an
point?
objective fact that my view is not true?
Bro, you can have like justified
that's
level of
contradictions.
reasoning,
I
right? Like
agree
we
with
have
that.
justified reasoning and knowing it's not true out of virtue of the contradictions.
Okay, so what contradictions? Wait. Before we even go down that route,
We
Full
were
loop,
trying to
full
go
loop,
through the
full
issue
fucking
earlier,
loop.
right? But like you divulged the conversation. I appreciate that mustache. Thank you so much. Into a conversation about how fucking microorganisms can be self-aware. Okay,
this is
that was
me
your
giving you
worldview.
the benefit of the doubt. So
What do you mean? This is me? What?
because this is required, like this is a big problem, origin of life for naturalism. There's no way.
I don't have to hold to naturalism to say that you're wrong. Did you not hear me?
You don't have to, but you don't
Yeah.
you're not taking any side. Like you're just saying.
I don't need to
you're
pick
wrong,
any
you're
side.
wrong.
I don't need to. We were running an internal critique on your view, and you're trying to flip the script so that you don't have to answer for the internal critique.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
And you know, like,
What's
we could.
What's
This
the
is
internal
this
critique
also.
of my view when it comes to consciousness?
We were internally critiquing the view when it relates to like the problem of heaven and other stuff like that. And then you made it about like this idea when it relates to consciousness within the context of zygotes, which you have no basis for. All you said is that it was logically possible, right? As
No,
as
I
to
didn't
claim
say
that these zygotes, right, because when they go to heaven, they would have had some sort of existence on earth, right, prior to the notion in which they went to heaven, therefore indicating under your view that it would be necessary to go to earth to be able to get to heaven, to be able to express these same sorts of values. But we just described here that it's not necessary, that there are going to be individuals that went to heaven that were able to express that relationship, same relationship that you said was meaningful when it relates to other types of entities in heaven without have gone into earth in the first place. So again, the whole idea was that it's unnecessary to go to earth.
Right. Then also, it seems as if your only like counter argument has been one against naturalism, which we were just talking about. That is like silly to assume. Like what if I were to just assume some notion of a creator that just simply did not possess like the qualities in which like an MGB or like the Abrahamic God would, right? So this isn't going to be an all good, all powerful, all knowing being that has a differentiation between like the afterlives, etc., etc., etc. Under this worldview, it seems as if you could not offer me any critique of mine, and it would be more plausible out of virtue of the fact that it does not possess as much, complexity and does not, have the same contradictions that yours does.
So, I know Parker is not a theist, so that's why I was attacking naturalism. You can say that you're not a naturalist, but then ultimately, like you're doing the whole, hey, I can smell.
It's not just theism or naturalism.
I'm positing an internal critique, and he's trying to shift it. Like I just explained this, and you did it again.
Every time
I'm honestly, I don't care to engage with you further, right? Because I've had to go over the same things over and over again for things that we've already explained, right? Things that we've already gone over, and you know them. So I don't understand why I would continue with this.
So to start, let me address what Dean said. So Dean, you could take another position outside of naturalism, some other form of theistic view, then obviously I wouldn't be making these arguments. But I'm pretty sure you're not a theist, are you?
I think I am. I think I am a theist, just not in the same notion that you would assume. But anyways, I completely agree with Parker in the sense that this has gone absolutely nowhere, and you've been unwilling to engage, and I've just kind of pivoted around.
And did you even hear what I just said? So like you completely dismissed, didn't even engage with what I just said. So if you want to interact with me, you can like message me, and we can have like a Discord conversation. I don't think that you're truly trying to engage on this platform at all. So. Have a good day. Again, I gave you a spot where you can like engage with me, but you're just not really engaging at all, legitimately here. We're gonna end it for today, everyone. This is just such a waste of my time, bro. Like, honestly, that was wild, bro.
It's all right. It's all right. Here, let me take that green screen off. How do I do this?
Yeah, no, I gotta turn off sub only chat.
Sweet,
we are gonna free. All right, everyone. We're gonna be going over to here. I can make you larger so that you can put your like second account. We're going to be going over to the second accounts right now, everyone. Z, I appreciate the hat and mustache. Thank you so much. We're going to be going over the second accounts. If you want to come support us, everyone, Parker Get a Bible, and it's not Dean. If you want to come support us, I do appreciate everyone who did come on today. Tomorrow I should be on at my normal times around 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, everyone. Tomorrow I don't know what we're going to do. I'll have to figure out then. But yeah, appreciate everyone who came through today. Everyone go to the second account.
Right here. We're going to be battling. Screenshot right now, y'all. Make sure to head over there.
All right, everyone. Peace out, y'all. Good night, everyone. This guy.
I'm gonna hang up here till you kick me or you end this.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna kick you. I'm just gonna let you sit up here. Just be like a little, like awkward. No one.